Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining the webinar and thank you for your flexibility. So we, in a last minute action, changed the format from physical meetup to webinar for COVID-19 considerations. So it's kind of an opportunity to test what we can do with Zoom. So we ask your indulgence. If there are some technical hiccups, then we'll try to arrange as fast as possible. Maybe you can also give your feedback afterwards, how much of this format is convenient for you. So that would be kind of interesting to have your feedback. So let me first of all, again, welcome you all, and then give a quick introduction, and then Julian and team will be giving you the technical introduction to the Pulsar blockchain. So just to give you the past context, Pulse is an experimental blockchain for the LetzBlock members. And so the objective is, first of all, to learn from this experiment, for everybody to have an idea how to run a blockchain, how to contribute to as a node, how to deploy and use Dapps, and so on and so on. Okay, so that's the main objective. Next slide, please. Julian. Thank you very much. So just for your information, and in order to be compliant GDPR-wise, we are recording this meetup, this webinar, and so we consider that you, by participating in this project and in the sessions, that you consent to a recording and that we use those recordings on our social platforms. Next slide, please. So quickly some household rules for the use of this webinar format. So when you arrive in this webinar, you are muted from our side. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. And if you would like to speak, then you can also put that in the chat, and then I'll unmute you. So as I said, the webinar is recorded so that you are aware of that. Next slide, please. So quickly recalling where you can find resources. So we are archiving all the materials for past sessions, and then going forward, we will be recording and archiving all the material for this session and then upcoming sessions. And we will put that accessible for everybody on the LetzBlock website. Okay, so you can see here that we already put the material from the last session up there. You have the presentation that you can access, and you have also the videos. So for this session, we will do exactly the same thing, and for upcoming sessions too. So you find that on letsblock.com/past sessions. Next slide, please. So for your information, we have the dates for the upcoming sessions. We will be having on 31st of March, which in the meantime is not in conflict anymore with the Deloitte LetzBlock joint conference, because that one has been cancelled. So on 31st of March, we will have a session on the Pulse governance. We will have an introduction. Then on 28th of April, we'll talk again Pulse governance, and then we'll try to find a consensus among the participants in order to determine the operational parameters and the governance parameters that we will be putting in place for the Pulse network and the Pulse nodes and the Pulse function. Then on 13th of May, that's a very important date because that's the date where we will be launching our nodes, our individual nodes. So we will come together physically and have very probably a very exciting session where we launch the network. And then 2nd of June and 16th of June, we will be having 2 sessions on deploying and using Dapps. So hold those dates. We will be announcing further details as things evolve. Next slide, please. Then just a quick recall how we plan to communicate on the Pulse project. So first of all, we have all the information about upcoming sessions, about past sessions, about how to join the project on our website. And then further communication is also done through the Slack member channel number 4, Slack number 4 Pulse. And then also communications for upcoming sessions will be published on meetup.com. Next slide, please. So today we have Sorin, Julian, Alexandru, and Pablo, who will be giving us a technical introduction. Julian, I pass the floor to you.
Thank you, Wim. Hello, everybody. I will be short because we prepared few slides with an overall description of what is the Pulse protocol about, and we will leave more time for question and answer to clarify what is not clear and what is not yet presented. I will start with the first slide, with a generic overview about what it means, the Pulsar architecture, that we split it in multiple layers. And you already heard about the witnesses components that we discussed last time. And we invited you to register in order to host or to run a witness node. But a part of this category of witness nodes, there are few other nodes that you should be aware about their existence, and you should be aware about how we are going to move in the next phase of the implementation and deployment. The second category, it's about seed nodes that have a main goal to interconnect all the witnesses nodes and all the RPC nodes in the network. They are not rewarded for the work they do just to be online. Plus, what is the case for the witnesses nodes, where the activity of being online and creating, validating blocks, it's rewarded by the protocol blockchain itself. The third category, it's about the RPC nodes, or we can call them also API nodes, that are used to interconnect the front-end applications, the web application, the mobile applications, to the ledger itself. Again, who is running this kind of nodes is not rewarded. It's just a support that it brings to the network. And outside of these 3 categories of nodes, we may have or not, it's not mandatory, a block explorer. Like in any other blockchain, it's a server, a web interface, a tool where we can analyze the content of each block that is created by the witnesses nodes in the network. We might have or not an off-chain storage, depends on how we decide to implement it. But right now we have this possibility to add it. Also, we can have a network status monitor, or a generic European or Luxembourgish map of nodes, just to monitor and to visualize all the nodes that are online in the network. We might have a web application server where we can host a condenser, that it's a web interface to create content or to share content. and it can be the same with the wallet. And we might have additional infrastructure monitoring tools for monitoring all the nodes in the network to see what is their redundancy, what is their availability, what is their resilience, and so on. Okay, so accepting the first three categories of nodes, witnesses, seed, and RPCs, all the others are is recommended to be there, to have them, but are not mandatory to bootstrap the network. Okay, the only disadvantage is that if we don't have the last building blocks, the blockchain network is up and running, it's creating blocks, but we cannot interact with it, we cannot see it, we cannot monitor it, we cannot post or make transactions. Now going directly in the how it should look, the specific implementation of the Pulsar protocol in the context of LetzBlock project, our recommendation is to start with a set of nodes, with a set of virtual machines that should have each of them different role, and to have a, let's say, a resilient deployment, our recommendation is to start with 4 seed nodes. This means that we need 4 virtual machines or devices that recommended to be in a different geographical location. Also, we recommend to start with 2 RPC nodes, virtual machines, again, to be in a different geographical location. And now the interesting part, it's about with how many witnesses to start. And this should be also a topic of discussions for the governance session. Right now, the protocol, the Pulsar protocol, by default is designed to start with 21 witnesses nodes, and it's recommended to have more than 21 in order to ensure this kind of redundancy and high availability. But of course, it's a question that it's open and we can decide to be higher or smaller. Our initial recommendation is to start with a safe number of witnesses nodes, and to be sure that we can bootstrap the network in a proper way, we suggested to start with a X number of nodes managed by the technical team plus Y number of nodes managed by the community. And as soon as the number of the nodes that are coming from the community increases, the number of the nodes that were used to bootstrap the network will decrease. In the end, we should arrive at one point where the minimum 30 witnesses nodes that we decided to start with should be handled, managed, maintained by an individual person from our community. If we decide to go for off-chain storage, again, our recommendation is to use even 2 virtual machines in a cluster, or to use public cloud storage from Amazon, for example, or to think in designing or implementing an IPFS solution. For the block explorer and network status monitor, again, should be another virtual machine. For the web application, condenser and wallet should be another virtual machine. And for the infrastructure monitoring, another virtual machine. So as you can see here, accepting the red 30 witnesses nodes that in the end should be managed and maintained by the community, we should think to a solution on how to provision all the other kind of virtual machines. We estimated the cost of, I don't know, maybe renting the cheapest virtual machines online at around €100 per month. But if we find between us people that are willing to sponsor or to provide this kind of resources, of course, we are open to discuss. And I just mentioned it here to be clear and transparent that in order to deploy, to bootstrap this project, we need an initial set of resources to make it a successful project. What are the installation steps for a witness if we talk only about witnesses? Okay. First of all, is to be sure that all of us that want to participate in this project, we have available a device that could be an Raspberry Pi, an Intel NUC, or a virtual private server with a minimum technical recommendation requirements that you can see displayed on the screen. It's up to you, up to us to decide what kind of device we provision and what kind of device we manage. Personally, myself, I would go for a virtual private server, but I know that some of my colleagues, they already mentioned that they will have an Intel NUC, others they will have a Raspberry Pi, and so on. The second step is to run a script where you install all the operating system dependencies, the Docker, and the node setup software. Thanks to Pablo, we managed to have this script in a very easy and fast way with just few instructions. Everything is installed. And going to the step number 3, another few instructions to set up, start, and to become a witness. 3 more commands. After the step number 3, let's say a normal duty will be to be sure that our device, our virtual private server is still online, it's up and running, it's not power off or it has some kind of errors on it. So it's our duty to monitor that this witness node, this specific device or virtual private server, it's up and running. What are the recommended devices that can be used? We don't limit the possibilities to what is displayed here. It's just a recommendation. It's what we are using at this moment for other projects. So we can start from the cheapest device, which is a Raspberry Pi, plus a power supply and the case and the micro SD card. The total amount is around 85 euro. If we want to have something more, let's say, professional, we can look to an internal NUC plus memory of 500 gigabytes. Again, the total cost could be around 500 euro. In this presentation, you will find also links to Amazon to see exactly the model, to see exactly the brand that are available. And you can order yourself based on your choice, whatever components you decide. Another recommendation could be to use a public virtual private server provider, which is called Contabo. Personally, I used them in the past. They are cheap. It works fine. No too many complaints. But also you have the option to go in something more professional, like, and of course more expensive, like Amazon or Azure. So about the infrastructure part, in few slides, this was the introduction. Now looking to what is a blockchain account, when we look to the Pulsar blockchain, to the Pulsar protocol, you should know that the account is not a long hash public key like in other blockchains. It's a short name that you can choose, and it's always starting with this arroba and your choice in the name. Of course, in the governance meeting, we can decide what kind of convention we can use for this name. At this moment, a new user in the blockchain protocol can be created by coordinators or can be created by other existing users. Again, it's a topic to discuss in the governance meeting if we leave it in this way, or if we limit only to, for example, coordinators, sorry. Each account has the possibility to have multi-signature, where is the case. What can you do with an account? You can transfer tokens from one account to another. You can create content in different distributed applications. And what we call by naming it a transaction, basically it's a transfer of tokens, or is the process to create or to post content, or it's a more custom process to create some JSON files, or to vote for different kind of decisions that we can make or we can foresee to have it in this environment. All the transactions are without fees. This means that you can initiate any transaction and you can initiate any kind of transfer without paying fees. Of course, in the governance meeting, again, we can find some limitations to avoid spamming of the network and these kind of things. By default, the Pulsar protocol has embedded some protection mechanism against spamming, but it's up to us to decide how we drive them, how we approve, and how we understand to use them. Another characteristic that you can do with an Pulsar account, it's an embedded exchange, market exchange in the protocol itself that allows you to convert Puls tokens against Euro tokens. And I think this is all from my side. Now I invite you to ask questions if you have. I think we should do it on the chat channel.
You see, hi, Julian, it's Wim speaking. So thank you very much for your presentation and for your technical introduction. Julian, do you see the chat? Because we have already a few questions from Catherine and Erwin.
I have to go out of the...
Otherwise, I can present them you directly. So Catherine is asking if there are any requirements, capacities for the node operators.
If we talk about technical requirements, yes, we have this kind of recommended requirements. If we talk about other kind of requirements, probably how to register, who is allowed to run a node, here should be more a discussion about member or not member or LetzBlock. I don't know. I think here it's up to you, Wim, to find a way of agreeing some specific requirements that are not technical. But from a technical point of view, here it's, let's say, a recommended list of technical requirements. How many virtual CPU, how much RAM, how much hard disk space, what kind of operating system we need, what kind of internet connection we need, what kind of ports we need to open in our firewall, and that's all.
What I'm going to propose is that, so apparently, and this is the indulgence I have been asking you in the beginning of the presentation, this is also our first experience with launching webinars over Zoom. Apparently you all have a button, raise hand. So if you, instead of writing down your questions in the chat, you would like to ask them orally, then please click that button, raise hand, and then I'll see what I can do with that on my side. So we have a question of Erwin. What type of content can be created?
Okay, I think here it's up to us to decide what kind of content we can create at this moment. We call it generic posts, meaning title, content, tags, and these kind of things. Of course, we can improve it with uploading pictures, with uploading documents, with whatever it comes into our mind. But the basic functionality of the condenser or the web app, how I presented it earlier, it's about more or less news, blogging, this kind of content.
If one of Julian and Soren's team want to intervene, please unmute yourself. And then when you stop interacting, mute yourself again. Soren, I see that you would like to intervene.
Yes, so thank you, Wim. So to try to add to what Julian has said about what type of content can be created. The question is from a technical point of view or from a content point of view? From a technical point of view, any type of content. It's like you want to, I don't know, you want to record music, you can record music. You want to record the video, you can record video. The video itself will go on the bulk storage. And of course, then if someone wants to transform this into a kind of a blockchain YouTube, there is the let's say the public permissionless equivalent, which is called DTube, and which runs on exactly this technology. But of course, it will cost a lot in storage. Storing the videos will take a lot of space. How is the storage capacity dealt with? Is there a technical question? Because I think that it's in the cloud. It's we can use IPFS. We can use Amazon S3. We can use various other. We can use a CDN if we need to. So technically, it can be. It's flexible. We can configure it like the business here, Wim, asks us to. But it could potentially cost a lot. Where do you aim with that question?
It's true that it could cost a lot. It depends on the use case that we choose to host or to experiment with.
Yeah.
If we try to experiment, as Sorin said earlier, with the videos, of course, it will cost a lot, and we have to see who will cover this cost. If we start with just text or messages with simple posts, it will not cost a lot. I think it should be an affordable cost.
We have a question from, or two questions from Sam. So the first question is, Sam would be interested to order an RPI Raspberry Pi plus case. I guess that there will be a link for purchasing the requirement equipment. Same thing for the operating system package. Yes, we will be posting all the references needed in order to be able to join the network. Julian, Sorin, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, then again, by all means, if you want to, I mean, if you don't need the links, do not wait for us. Huh? You just go on Amazon and search by yourself. We will do to facilitate the uptake and for the sake of simplifying the process. We are, as Wim says, we are going to put. No, there is no correct equipment or incorrect equipment. This is supposed to be supposed to be resilient. So we encourage you to try anything. We have tried, for instance, we have tried to run it successfully on RockPi, on Odroid. You can try to run it. I mean, if you are the tinkering type of guy who likes small devices or big devices, you can try to run it on any computer that runs Linux. So no, by all means, try to be diverse. On the contrary, improves and increases the resiliency of the network. Not everybody should have the same equipment, because then you create a potential single point of failure. If there is a bug into a generation of RPI4, for instance, then the whole blockchain is compromised because everybody runs the same RPI4. So by all means, use the equipment that you have already, that you feel most comfortable with, that you would like to try using. There is no correct equipment. Everything should be working. And the same thing for the OS package. We know that Ubuntu and Debian work, but by all means, if you are the tinkering type of guy again and want to try it with other flavors of Linux or even other flavors of Unix, I know maybe you are a FreeBSD aficionado, then okay, we can't guarantee that it will work, but if you want to make it work on FreeBSD or on OpenBSD or on NetBSD or on any other flavor of Unix, on IX, then yeah, as a pure beginner, you will have, for beginners, there will be like not quite a Windows wizard, but there will be a next, where you won't have to do anything. If you don't if you don't feel like experimenting, then you'll have scripts, as Julian has said, that will install everything without you needing to do much. Okay, if it fails, then perhaps you need to ask someone.
So yes, we will be posting documents and references that allows for everybody to have an idea of what is recommended or accessible in terms of technology. We have a second question from Sam, and he asks, so in the event description, there was some links to Steam. Is the plan to do a kind of Steam blockchain?
No. It's not a plan to do a Steam
No,
blockchain.
there is not a plan to do a kind of Steam blockchain, no.
But isn't it true that the whole technology is a branch and based on Steam, and that if you try to get familiar with Steam, that there will be a lot of things, logical elements that you will understand in Pulse?
Yes, that is true. That is true. The Pulsar technology is based on Steam technology, but precisely we want to experiment with a blockchain that from the ground up tries to be law compliant and tries to integrate into the let's say into the existing mechanism of our society, not a public permissionless blockchain. So, for instance, we were mentioning spam protection. The best protection that you get for against spam is the fact that everybody using the Pulsar blockchain, or the LetzBlock Pulse blockchain, needs to be registered in a LetzBlock file or database. So the thing is that if they spam, you know exactly who is spamming. So then you can take measures against a precise person. You cannot have Sybil attacks where the same physical individual, the same individual creates unlimited number of accounts and then sends transactions from apparently different accounts, but which upstream all belong to, are controlled by the same individual, and so on and so forth. So there are let's say more philosophical differences, but technically, yes, technically it's based on Steam with some modifications.
So we have a question from Jan. Can I run Pulse on the same VPS than my Steam VPS?
Good question. I think here Pablo could help us with some details.
I'm not sure Pablo is in the room.
So if the VPS runs Steam, it can run Pulsar, no problem. But running the two at the same time might be perhaps might impact the performance of the Steam node, because Steam is quite more used than we expect the Pulsar blockchain, the LetzBlock Pulse blockchain to be used at the beginning at least. So if you take, if you want to run them at the same time to operate them on the same machine, LetzBlock Pulse might impact the performance of your Steam node if you are a witness in Steam.
True, and on top of that, we should be sure that we work on different ports from a networking point of view. And one additional information is that all this Pulse protocol, it comes into Docker containers. So as long as they are isolated, probably will not be any issue.
John also asks if you can share the script of the node installation.
After we define and decide how we bootstrap the network, of course we can share it. At first you have to decide about the whole structure.
I have a question. So I'm not the typical technical guy, and so we have machines that will be witnesses. Then you will have seed nodes. What else did we have? Now, from a learning point of view, what kind of elements will help me to determine which kind of node I would like to run? So what will each of these nodes learn me, teach me?
All of them will learn you something. Of course, if you plan to run all of them, you have to pay the cost for all of them. It's not anymore one node, it's not anymore one VPS, should be different VPS. So the cost, it multiplies. Comparing with witness node, where for your online service, you receive a specific kind of reward, for all the other nodes, you don't receive this kind of reward. So we would like to see as many as possible people to say we want to learn and we want to run seed nodes, we want to run RPC nodes or other kind of virtual machines or services. But of course, we can not force anybody to do it.
Could you very briefly, for each of these nodes, give an indication of what they are doing and what differentiates them from the others?
Okay. So talking about witness, seed, and RPC nodes, all three of them, they store locally the ledger, the shared ledger. Witness nodes has a clear service of validating and signing blocks. This is only one role that this witness is entitled to do it. The seed nodes, a part of storing the same ledger, it has the role to behave as a connection hub. This means that all the witnesses and all the RPC nodes in the network are connected via this connection hub, which are seed nodes. So that's why we said we cannot bootstrap the network if we don't have this kind of connections hub up and running. The role of the RPC node is to provide an API call for any web application or mobile application that wants to read data from the ledger or that wants to submit transactions to the ledger. Transactions meaning transfer of tokens or creating content. All the other tools like Block Explorer, off-chain storage, network status monitor, web application and infrastructure monitoring, they are used as an additional services to really see something out of this blockchain. Otherwise, having only the first three categories, witness, seed, and RPC, we will have a functional blockchain network that is creating blocks and it's connected, but we cannot interact with it. Okay, so looking to Block Explorer, it's a tool, a web tool used to analyze the content of each block. Looking to off-chain storage, it's another function, another role to decide where we store what it has to be stored off-chain, not on-chain. Network status monitor, or the map of nodes, is another tool where we can see all the nodes being online and validating blocks and what is their schedule of validating blocks. And the web application, it's in the end a website, a web server, where we can host a basic so-called condenser or platform where we can create content. And in the same web server, we can host also the wallet. And additionally, for the infrastructure part, we need this kind of tools from where we can monitor and query all the nodes that are online and to send alerts. I don't know, if the number of the seed nodes, for example, it decreases to 1 instead of 4. So we will be somehow in a risk to lose the connections between nodes.
I was thinking, sorry, can I?
Yeah, sure.
I was thinking, does anyone want to see an instance of Pulsar actually working, or do you want to see it pulsing, or? Yes. So I'll indicate this here. Let me just 1 second. So for testing purposes, we have we also have a user interface to broadcast transactions. So here you can see. I'm not sure all the transactions, but the large majority of transactions that you can create and launch towards this dev version of Pulsar. Now, what we will need to define in the governance meetings is what you've seen in the Explorer at the left side, meaning the initial values for the number of pools tokens, how they are distributed, and all kinds of such data that such configuration data that will initialize the LetzBlock blockchain. Here, what you see is a dev instance.
I have a quick question still on the nodes. Is the 3 kind of nodes, is that particular to the Pulsar technology, or is that also to be found in the Steam architecture?
It's particular to any kind of blockchain, not to Steam, not only to Steam, but also to Ethereum, Fabric, whatever other blockchain it's in the market, even Bitcoin.
But there are in Steam you don't have witnesses, seeds, and these three kind of nodes that you are discussing now. That's
in Steam we have.
Yes, you do. Why do you say you don't have them? Yes, you do.
Okay, so if I want to explore a little bit more the material and I want to understand a little bit more the three kind of nodes, then I can start digging into Steam.
Yes,
okay,
definitely.
And you can find them in, for example, in Ethereum with a different name. A seed node in Ethereum is called boot node. And I think even in Bitcoin is called boot node. An RPC node is called the same. In Ethereum is called RPC node. And the witness in Ethereum is called miner. Okay. So this is the analogy between them.
Yeah. We have a question from Anne, and she's asking, what human resources would require the implementation of the controls previously mentioned by Sorin related to access? Who would be in charge?
Access to what? Sorry.
To the blockchain. I think this is a governance question, not a technical question. It will depend on how much do you want to control, and
I'm going to unmute Anne, and then you can ask Anne. Please go ahead. 1 second. Anne, unmute. Oh, I can't unmute Anne. Strange. Maybe Anne muted on her side. Anne, if you unmute on your side, then I can also unmute on my side, and then you can ask directly the question to Julian and Sorin. Okay, it doesn't work. We have a question from Catherine. How does it work with the validation? Do you use an algo?
Yes, it's the graphene-based consensus algorithm. We don't reinvent the wheel here. It's based on the graphene consensus algorithm. I think Sorin can provide.
Yes, it's it originated with proto shares, and then it is used even today in BitShares, and more recently it is also used in EOS. It's the DPoS consensus, and validation of what? Validation of the transaction. This is the Steemd node that looks at and validates the transaction. It's the code of the blockchain itself. It's the code is open source, so you can, if you read C++, you can dig into how the transactions are validated, if this is the idea of the question behind the actual question behind if it's about validating the transactions or validating the blocks. Or yes, so it's graphene is with the E, not with the I. Yeah, so as Wim has mentioned previously, and Julian as well, we do not reinvent the wheel. Huh? We most, let's say, 90% code is inherited from Steam.
We have a question from Chen, who's asking, if we just change the port 2001, I could run them on the same VPS. If it's not complicated, it would be kind of you and easier for me.
It's doable.
Okay, that was a very concise answer. Okay. Okay, so anybody else questions? Please raise your hand or post your question in the chat. So in the meantime, let me put things in context. So we have the Slack channel 04 Pulse, which you are all invited to use as a means of communication between you, to ask questions, to have them answered by people from the participant community that know the answer, or have them forwarded to Sorin, Julian, and Julian, Alexandru, and Pablo. So feel free to use that Slack channel to collectively learn and evolve. So a question from Sam: what is expected from us before the next session? Let me try to answer that question, and if Anne would like to intervene, or Erwin or Victor, then please raise your hand and then I'll unmute you and give you the floor. So what is expected from you for the next session? So the two next sessions will be about governance. The session on March 31st will be an introduction session on the governance, like we had today on technology. So that's all about having a first idea on the material we are working with. And then for the session of the 28th of April, there we will need from you critical thinking and critical input. So based on what you have what you understood from the technology, what you understood from the governance part, the 28th, we will bring all that together and try to decide as a community on how we will implement the Pulse protocol and how we will run the network. So first preparation in terms of critical thinking and having your idea and input will be needed for the 28th of April. And then for the 13th of May, there you need to bring your material, okay? We will be posting, as said before, the references. Either you bring your Raspberry Pi or your computer with AWS available. So based on the specifications that we will be posting on the 13th of May, we will need you to come over with your physical material because that is the moment where we will start and launch the network and launch the nodes, okay? So yeah, for the immediate future, that is what is expected from you. Is Victor, Erwin, Anne there? Do you want to add something to that? Or the technical team, Sorin, Julian, Alexandru, Pablo, do you want to add something to what I just said?
Nothing more, just being prepared with the device for who wants to be online, to contribute. And from a technical point of view, this is all we need. The device or the access to the virtual server.
As Julian has said, a number of machines, like for instance, an RPC node and 1 or 2 seed nodes are needed, and we do not expect you to oops. Anne, are you trying to? I'm muting myself.
Go ahead, sorry. I will be unmuting Anne afterwards.
So to Erwin, the answer to Erwin, no, as I said, the RPI 4 or the RPI 3, it works on an RPI 3 as well, is one of the cheapest physical devices you can run this blockchain on, but that does not need to be so it's sufficient, but it's not necessary. You can simply go, as Julian has mentioned, you can go on Contabo and book a VPS for something like €4 a month, and then you come with your laptop and you connect to your Contabo VPS, and then you can install we will give you the scripts. It will be very, very easy. It won't be difficult, and then you will not need to bother with a physical device. The RPI4 is for people who want to actually hold it in their hand, and it's for network resilience, having more diverse types of nodes, and so on and so forth. And it's a nice device, and it's not expensive. But as Julian said, you can use a VPS. It's perhaps simpler to use a VPS. Yeah.
Anne would like to take the floor. Anne, I'm going to unmute you now. Go ahead, Anne.
Okay. Hi, it's just regarding the governance session. I think the idea would be to send to the participant and to put on a Slack a few days before the meeting some guidance and some reading, so that people can come prepared.
Yeah, we will be doing that as we also did for today's session. So on the website, we posted like to do for everybody. And then we've put in there a link to the Steam videos. So we will do the same for the upcoming sessions. So please all check on the website for references and resources that you can use for preparation. So we have a question from Audrey. Could you share a list of items to purchase for the most minimum price? I think first of all, and Sorin and Julian, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there is also a 12-month free account at AWS. Is that possible?
Yes. Yes.
And would that be an option?
Why not? Yes, of course. It's not very yeah, why not? Yes, you can try. It's perhaps that is the minimum thing, starting with free AWS account. Although I know that I remember that Julian was not very happy about talking about this.
And what is?
Sorry?
What is the reason for your hesitation on a free AWS account?
Well, I let Julian express, because I seem to remember that he had some hesitation to recommend going with the free AWS account.
I'm not against going with free AWS account, but as far as I know, it's limited in time. So it's free for 30 days. I don't know, a specific amount of days.
I read 12 months.
12 months.
Yeah. Well, we will check on that, and that will also be part of the items you can purchase.
It's nothing wrong to go with this free account as long as we provision the recommended technical resources. And the only risk here is that you started with Amazon, and after 1 year, probably you will continue with Amazon and you have to pay. Or you create a new demo account and you move it from one account to another. I don't know. But yeah, why not? As long as it has the recommended technical requirements, why not? It's doable.
Okay, Jet tells us that there are several AWS programs. George talks about Azure, should also have a 12-month free account. Jet had a micro AWS instance in the past that was free for 12 months. So yeah, so again, these are things that will be part of the recommendations that we will be posting on the website. Are there other questions? Did we have a final slide? I don't remember, Julian.
Yes, we have it.
Yeah, that was the final slide. Okay. So let me give it another 15 seconds if somebody would like to ask another question. Otherwise, I propose we conclude for today. We will be posting the video of today's webinar on the website. We will be posting the presentation, and then soon we will also have other references as discussed during the presentation. Okie dokie, let me check. Are there hands raised? No other questions. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Soren. Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Julian, Pablo, Alexandru, for your support in this exciting project. So yeah, we'll see you again on the 31st of March for the first introduction governance session. Please continue following up the news flow or the announcements in the Slack channel on the website via Meetup in function of COVID-19 evolution. We'll communicate on the format of the meeting on the 31st of March. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a nice evening and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Nice evening.
Bye. Thank you for your interest. Bye-bye.